All right, everybody has a lot of questions about these brushes, how and when to use them and when for what purpose. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of the 12 brushes that I think if I had to pick 12 to use and I never could use any brushes ever again for the rest of my career, I would be happy with these 12. You got McNulty, Daniels, Freeman, Cuddy, Marlowe. These first five are the most important. These are the ones I've used probably for the past 3 years the most regularly. Each one has a specific purpose that we'll get into. These next five are kind of really critical as well, but not absolutely mandatory. Like I wouldn't die without these ones. And then these last two are just bonus brushes, just to show you that, you know what, Photoshop's Photoshop. So you got a lot of tricks in Photoshop, you got a lot of cheats and leaf brushes and cloud brushes. Leaf one I made, cloud one I didn't make. I think that's Jamie Jones's, but that brush is like, I don't even know what he did. This thing is just magical. All these, in fact, most of these brush tips I didn't make, especially Freeman. Um, McNulty I got from Justin Oaksford, who is a great artist, Art Center student, who gave me this awesome 5-circle brush that I turned into, that I put a twist and angle jitter twist on and turned into McNulty, which is the most useful. Um, okay, so going back to here. So what I did is I made a layer file with my canvas underneath, and I put the image on top. When I'm painting an image, or if I was painting from life with a laptop, I wouldn't need this, but since I'm painting an image, I have this here on a separate layer, but in the same file. Not on a separate file, not looking somewhere else, in the same file, so I can really look at it. Um, and I have a gray layer too, so that way, when I'm painting on top of the canvas, I made a new layer here. When I'm painting on top of the canvas, I don't have to worry about, cutting into it. That's a big theme we're going to see over and over again is when you're making big strokes, you don't want you don't want something so that your strokes cross over to an edge so that you paint timidly. You want to be able to just paint really strongly. Um, Okie doke. I have a very specific brush setup that I'm not going to get into in terms of like how I set up my tablet, but we'll talk about that on another episode. Always when I start blocking in, I start with Daniels. Now these brushes are organized here the exact same way they are on that sheet. So if you're following along, you have this sheet up on a different monitor. I have mine set up in the exact same order. And I'll just call them out by name as I use them. Always start out with Daniels. Daniels is the second one down. Daniels is a hard ass. And when I'm looking at a composition like this, the first thing I'm trying to do is figure out where the basic shapes are. That's on erase. Gotta put it on brush. Notice how I'm making strong marks. That's something I'm going to keep talking about. As I'm trying to draw this shape, I'm not getting in there and starting to just kind of, that's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at it. I'm going to make another layer here. I'm looking at it and I'm trying to understand what is the essence of that shape. And in this case, the simplistic essence of it is probably something like that, like that. So if I was drawing it over here, I'd be like that and like that. You see what I mean? This concept of understanding the essence of the object before you start drawing it is something nobody talks about because it's like inside the artist or whatever. Well, you can do it, just do it. Just telling you to do it, so do it. If you have another shape here that you want to add to it, you still think about it in that big simple form, but basically that's the essence of it. Over here, the essence of that, bam. And when I say essence, I mean what is essentially it doing. I'm not doing it, it's not anything spiritual or supernatural. I'm saying what is it essentially visually doing. It's not anything magic that isn't here. What is this rock doing? It's generally doing that. What is this land doing? It's generally doing that. What is this wave doing? Well, we kind of know that waves curve around, so it's curving up like that, and this is curving over. So everything in red is what's going on in my mind. And I'm telling you about it so that you know when you start making marks what is happening in real, what's happening, what's there, what am I drawing, and what's going on like in my subconscious when I'm making marks. I'm looking and understanding the essence of everything before I draw it. The water, if you look at the water, it has a crisscross sort of thing. It's got waves this way and waves that way. So the simplistic essence of that would be like that and like that. Some kind of diamond shapes. All right, so going back to our painting, um, making strong marks to start with that capture the essence and put them in the right spot. Now it's Photoshop, so I can do whatever I want. I can move this thing up. My canvas aspect ratio is the exact same as this image on purpose. And cut out. See, it's not about painting in, it's about painting in and erasing out. And I always start with a solid color on a separate layer, always solid black for anything that's kind of darkish. Where's this horizon line? That's going to be an important thing to figure out. So it's not quite the center of the image. I can even use the square tool. It's like it's not quite 2/3 up. It's maybe like right there. So that one is going, I'm just going to use the bucket, make it like a light gray. Gauge it, eyeball it. Maybe, you know what, even if I don't get it right, again, it's Photoshop. Ain't no shame in this game. Just do that. Transform it up. Whatevs. Do whatever you want. What, are you going to not let Photoshop be Photoshop because you're some kind of painting purist? Gives a shit. So now once I have the horizon in there, and you see I haven't hardly made any marks, but I want to make sure my placement of my stuff is in the right spot. The bottom of this is super critical. I'm kind of going to see, well, how far is it from the horizon? Because how far it is from the horizon is very critical in telling its perspective. I'm holding down shift to get a completely straight line. And why you say am I doing that? You know, because there's a lot of, you know, little wiggledy waggles right here. Well, because the essence of it is straight. And I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. It's about the essence of it. That's what you're focusing on. Get that shape in there. This shape, well, now it's almost obvious. You can see like how much easier it is. I'm going to make a new layer. The reason being I want to make bold marks. So that one starts maybe up here and ends somewhere around there. And again, I'm painting way past where I need to because all I'm focused on is the top shape, one thing at a time. Gonna cut out the bottom. Now before I cut it out, I'm gonna have a look. How far is this one from the horizon? Really close, really close. So that's something I can easily see. It's probably there. Held down shift, not even messing around with trying to figure out, you know, what the little changes in that stroke are. I'm just trying to get a big, simple essence of that shape. And then, you know what? I'm gonna start adding some of these little bits and designing them. Now, when people say design shapes, they just mean make them awesome, you know, and that could mean painting in, painting out, trying a bunch of different things. And notice I'm only focusing on the tops of them, only the tops of them, because the bottom of them, I know are going to be cut out straight. Now, if I leave those two little bumps there, it kind of shows, it has a different feel than if I have one bump and one curve. So every little mark you make, even at this stage, is going to kind of start leading the composition. And I'll give you an example. Like right in this picture, I feel like the focal point is this wave and this rock maybe. But now, because of the values and because of the simplicity of this, there's something there. This is the focal point. But if I were to just do this, that's now the focal point, or it's competing. So the biggest problem with most people's concepts and compositions, and their biggest problem in everything visually that they do, and which is why it's so easy to look at a composition in 1 second and tell you how much experience someone has, is because they do shit like this. They keep adding layer upon layer of crap, and then everything is competing with everything else. Decide what your focal point is, which in this case was this wave and this rock, and everything else is going to be subject to it. Now for the water, this water wave kind of goes across straight. I'll use the line tool sometimes, which might be kind of surprising to some people to use the line tool to express water. But because the essence of the water is straight across, I'm going to make another layer on that. I'm just going to pull straight across. Yeah, get it. Good enough. I just want that top of it close to that rock in the right spot. And later I can add little shenanigans to make it better. And where's the bottom of it? How thick is it? How thick is it compared to that? You're like, well, I want to express myself. You don't get to. This is not the part where you express yourself. This is the part where you get it right. Later we're going to express ourselves on a perfectly structured thing. Um, but now we're starting to see what the pieces are that we have. I'm going to continue that out because there's a couple more little stretchy pieces that come out in that direction. And when I get more detailed, all these little white slivers coming off into the distance. In fact, I'm going to take line tool. Oh, tip about line tool, make sure it's set to pixels, not shape or path. Otherwise you'll get like a stupid path on each stroke you make. And also I'm using the touch strip to change the width of the line tool. It works just like brush size. You see how just like when I added that one awkward piece, every little mark I make is going to start drawing attention, especially thin contrasty marks. So I want to see what is the minimum I can get away with. And I did line tool before, but I can throw, you see how you add one little curve on a line tool thing and all of a sudden the thing looks curved and not like a line tool anymore? It doesn't take that much. You just add a couple little whirly jigs and you're like talking frothy foam instead of awkward line tool piece. And then the last thing I need to figure out here is this ground. And I think I'm going to draw it in white. This one's going to be tough because it's got a lot of beautiful shapes here, but it also has to be really well done in perspective. So I'm going to worry about only the bottom edge, not the top edge for now. And this one is critical because it tells perspective. This one is slightly farther back than that one. So this curve and then the top edge of it. Now obviously it's a lot more complicated than that, so I might just do a little bit of that. But never, ever leave Daniels with a dull end like that. I always cut back into Daniels. Always. 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 Never leave Daniels just by himself. Always paint in with Daniels, cut out with Daniels. Alright, so those are the basic elements. Now I have the sand, so I'm going to make another layer on top of the water, but under that wave, and call it the sand. Is that roughly right? That's roughly right, but this one is tricky. This one's gonna take some love. Whoops. Be careful when you step undo, it also undoes your layer selection. If I take this and lighten it a little bit, Control U, and then take the one behind it and lighten it a little more. Got a composition on my hands, and that's how you do a basic block in with Daniels. All right, that is the most basic thing. 90% of the time when I'm looking at artwork, it's lacking the basic understanding of how to block in shapes in a really simple way. Now, definitely this thing needs some loving, but it doesn't matter. We'll get to it in the next episode. But for now, you can see how just putting it in simply gives you a really good idea of what all the basic pieces are, and it matches that image from a far distance. Cool. All right. Thanks for listening.